Hey guys, just wanted to make a quick video on how to get started on the planet Vulcanus in Factorio Space Age expansion. So Vulcanus should be the first planet that you go to after you finish the starter planet, Navis, and you're going to want to make sure that you have a decent space platform as well, so that you can ship products between the planets when you get started with Vulcanus. So I'll just go through kind of what you need to unlock and all for these different technology trees up to being able to make the science itself and starting your automation on the planet, and then what parts you're going to need to probably import from Navis, and how to create the different items and how to find them on the planet. So once you've unlocked Planet Discovery Volcanus and you've actually landed on the planet, before you go though, there are some items that I would recommend that you bring with you just to make your experience a little bit easier. It is designed so that you can start from scratch in order to progress, but it's going to be a lot longer if you do it that way, so it's best to come a bit more prepared. So some of the things that you're going to be wanting to create on the planet are the things like foundries and big mining drills, and it's better to bring the products from Navis that you can to facilitate this early on to make scaling up the production a little bit easier. So for those things, we'd probably want to bring in for the foundries the steel plates, the electronic circuits, and the refined concrete. Tungsten carbide is a new thing that we create on Volcanus, and lubricant is something that you can technically bring in via barrels, but you can make it relatively easy on Volcanus. So I would just make the lubricant on Volcanus since it's a liquid. And then we have the big mining drill, which takes, so I would recommend bringing in advanced circuits, the electric engine units, and the electric mining drill. Same deal with tungsten carbide, and molten iron is something that we create out of the foundries themselves, so you can't bring that in. Also, in order to get started, you're going to need some pump jacks as well as some chemical factories, chemical plants, as well as generating power. You're also going to want some of the steam turbines, wherever they are here, the steam turbines. Probably bring some pipes to get started as well, because you're going to need foundries before you can actually make the pipes anyway. So in order to get started, once you land on Vulcanus, this is the factory that I've already set up, but I'll just go over the technology on how to get there. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is look at unlocking these two tech trees here, the calcite processing and the tungsten carbide. So in order to unlock these, you just need to find and mine calcite and find a big volcanic rock to unlock these other two items. So the big volcanic rock, pretty easy. Once you land, just go find a big rock like this, and then you just whack away at it, and that should unlock the tech tree for you. So that unlocks carbon and tungsten, and the other one you need is calcite. And if you look at your map, you can see big white patches on the map like this, and this. These are all calcite. So you're just going to need to walk over to one of them and then just right click on it, and then boom, that's one calcite. So it would unlock that technology for you in the tree, and then you're able to create foundries. You're going to be able to craft the tungsten carbide to be able to unlock the foundries. So these two things here are what we need to get started with, mainly because the calcite processing unlocks a use for sulfuric acid into steam, which we need to get started for power. So if we come back over here, you'll see that there's this big yellow field. This has got a bunch of holes here, and they are sulfuric acid geysers. So all we need to do is put a pump jack down, and then we just get sulfuric acid for free. So it makes it really easy in order to get the sulfuric acid. And the new recipe that we unlock is called acid neutralization, and that takes the calcite that we found before and the sulfuric acid together, and it makes a lot of steam. I've only ever made one of these, and it's been enough to sustain this many steam turbines, and it can actually sustain more as well. So I would just pop down a bunch of pump jacks on all of these sulfuric geysers, and then just route it into a single chemical plant with the calcite. So at the start, you're going to want to mine the calcite with your standard electric drills, and then once you've got that up and running and you get the mining drills later, you can upgrade them to the big mining drills. But obviously you're not going to have power to do that at the start, so recommendation there is just put down some solar panels. They're not going to be very effective, but it'll get you enough in order to pump out some of the sulfuric acid and mine some of the calcite to put into this chemical plant to make the steam, and then put it into your steam turbines. And then you're going to have automatic sustained electricity without the need for those solar panels anymore. And that's going to be able to help you throughout your whole journey on Vulcanus. So once we have power stabilized, the next thing that we want to do is the next part in the technology tree, which was that tungsten carbide. So that was unlocked when we mined that volcanic rock, and you may have noticed that when you do mine those big volcanic rocks, you actually get that purple resource out of it, which is tungsten. So tungsten you're going to want to put into tungsten carbide, but tungsten carbide also requires the sulfuric acid and the carbon alongside that tungsten ore. And you might be thinking, well, maybe I can just go out and find a patch of tungsten, but unfortunately you're going to need to go mine some of those big volcanic rocks to get enough ore initially, because these tungsten patches that we want to mine, let's say if we just zoom out a little bit here, we see there's a tungsten ore patch over here, and it's got this red area, and that red area means that it's got a what's it called, a demolisher in it, which is a big worm that will destroy anything that you build in that sector. So if you want to be able to build anything in the sector without it getting destroyed, you have to go kill that demolisher. And if you look on my channel, I've got another video there on how to deal with demolishers early on. So watch that if you want to know how to kill that. And when you do, that whole area will be claimed, and it'll be just like the other areas over here. And then you can safely put down some mining drills on the tungsten, and you'll get it out. But I do recommend that you get big mining drills first before mining the actual tungsten ore patches, because the electric mining drills are just not that very good on tungsten ore, and it's better to just wait to have the big one first. So run around, find some of these huge volcanic rocks, chuck them into an assembler with the tungsten ore, the carbon and the sulfuric acid. But we need to make the carbon first, but carbon is just a combination of what we've already got, which is coal and sulfuric acid. So yeah, initially everything's using sulfuric acid, not only just the power but everything else. So make sure you have a dedicated sulfuric pump that goes to power, and then have another section that is dedicated for your production, because if you use too much, your power is going to be a bit impacted. So just plop some more down, get some more sulfuric acid out, put that along next to mining of your coal. So when you land on the planet, in the initial section that you land in, there'll be a coal patch there. I think there's a little bit left of my original coal patch, which is there. But after a while it got used up, and then I had to go and get one that was all the way over there. But it should be enough to get you through the entirety of Volcanus initially. So once you have the coal, once you have the sulfuric acid, you can make that carbon. and then you just output that carbon, put it into a machine alongside the tungsten ore and the sulfuric acid, and then you've got yourself some tungsten carbide. And obviously you're going to be feeding that tungsten ore manually initially, just because you're going to be running around getting it from the rocks. But once you have enough tungsten carbide, that's what you're going to use in order to make a foundry. So when you craft your first tungsten carbide, it'll unlock it in the tech tree, and you'll be able to see the foundry get unlocked. And then we need to make one foundry in order to unlock the big mining drill. So in order to make a foundry, you need quite a bit of things. Like I mentioned before at the beginning of the video, you're going to want to import some of these. So make sure you're importing the steel plate, the electric circuits, and the refined concrete. The tungsten carbide we just talked about, you can manually just put some stuff in there. The lubricant is, you can technically import that through barrels, but I would recommend that you set that up via the new recipe that was unlocked in the tech tree previously when we mined those rocks at the start. And that's the simple coal liquefaction, and that was unlocked here when we mine the calcite. That's that third recipe there, simple coal liquefaction, and that takes the coal and the calcite and the sulfuric acid, everything that we've already got, and it makes it into heavy oil, and that just translates directly into lubricant. So once we have that lubricant, we just pipe it into a building. Initially, obviously your first one's not going to be a foundry. This one's making foundries in foundries, but the first one is just going to be your normal assembler, and then that's going to create a foundry. And then after you make your first foundry, you're going to want to make further foundries in the foundry, if that makes sense. Because the foundry has, as you can see there on the tooltip, base productivity is 50%. So every 2 foundries that you make, you get 1 free one. So as soon as you can, you're going to want to switch to foundries because of that. Any product gets 50% productivity. So once you make that foundry and the tech tree, you're going to unlock the ability to be able to make those big mining drills, which is what we're after. So you're going to want to plop down a foundry for making those as well because of the productivity. And for the big mining drills themselves, there are going to be required some of those parts that I talked about before for importing: the advanced circuits, the electric engines, and the electric mining drills. But the tungsten carbide, we already made that. Still manually making it, but we just make some so that we can get the initial big mining drills. And molten iron. So molten iron is something that you're going to be getting out of the foundry production for standard parts. So once you have maybe probably your second foundry, you're going to want to put that down next to a lava pit and set up an offshore pump. This is the same pump that you would use for getting water, and put the pipes in through to a foundry, and you want to set the recipe to molten iron from lava. And what that does is it takes the lava from the tube and adds some calcite to it, which we already got, and it outputs the molten iron and stone. So stone is a byproduct of this process, but you can easily, once the stone comes out, you can easily just dump it into the lava and it destroys it. So you don't need to deal with it as a byproduct if you're just putting it into the lava. But there is some uses for stone. If you want to automate concrete or refine concrete on Vulcanus, then you're going to want to keep some of that concrete available, some of that stone available for the concrete. So once you've set up a foundry and you've got yourself the output of the molten iron, you can use that molten iron into another foundry, and you can create these big mining drills. And you're going to want to make a few of these initially, and at this point, once you have the big mining drills, you can't really delay it anymore. You're going to have to go out and clear one of these sections here that are protected by a worm. So just to demonstrate, let's go see if we can find a worm in this territory here. So you will probably, like if you look on your map, you're going to want to look for something like this where it's got a tungsten patch. It'll be covered in red. You want to go there and you want to look around that area until you find a worm. Hopefully we can easily find where the worm is in this territory. But the best way to deal with them early on, at least, is you're going to want to put down, you can either use a tank. For me, I use the tank with physical damage shells, so that's the uranium ones or the normal ones, but the uranium ones are more powerful. Oh, here we go. There's two of them here, right next to each other. Or you can put down turrets. A bunch of turrets in a line can deal with these small demolishers relatively easy. I'm a bit further in the game, so I have a railgun, so I can just one-shot it relatively easily, which you can look forward to later. But for the initial demolisher, you're going to want to put down the turrets or use a tank in order to deal with it. And as I said before, I've got a video on my channel if you want to check that one out. It'll explain it a bit more and show me using a tank actually killing one. So initially I had this tungsten ore patch here, so I cleared out this area and I put down all of these big mining drills. I haven't cleaned this up yet. Once you find that initial patch and you put down all of the big mining drills, you can route the tungsten ore into your base, and I'll just kind of show you what that looks like with the setup that I've got at the moment for the big mining drills. But once I got the big mining drills, I also put it down for calcite, because big mining drills also have the 50% productivity like the foundries. So for every 2 ore that it mines, you get 1 for free. So if you have a look at the tooltip here, you can see it's got, well, this one's got 150 productivity, which is even better. But that's with some of the technology research upgrades for mining productivity. But as a base, it's got 50%. And you can also see it says resource drain 50%. So it's going to drain all of this 50% slower than normal electric mining drills. So once you have that set up and you're belting some of this tungsten all the way back to your base, now you can really start to ramp up automation. So first thing you want to do is, if you're still running around, go picking up those big volcanic rocks for the tungsten ore, you can now automate that for the tungsten carbide. So you can belt in the carbon and the tungsten and the sulfuric acid and automate the tungsten carbide. So that'll make it a lot easier in order to make those foundries and the big mining drills to further your operations. And then once you've made those big mining drills as well, you're going to want to come down to, you would have unlocked the tungsten steel. And tungsten steel is what you're going to want for the metallurgic science pack. So tungsten steel is relatively straightforward once you have the tungsten automated. You just got to bring in some of the molten iron that you get, like I described before, where you put the lava into the foundry and then it outputs that the molten iron, and then you put it in with the tungsten ore and then you get your tungsten plate. So really easy to make the tungsten plate, and once you make that, it's going to unlock the final part, which is the research for the metallurgic science pack. And at that point you just bring in everything that you've already created, so the tungsten carbide, the tungsten plate and the molten copper, and it'll make the metallurgic science pack for you. And once you're at that point, you can pretty much scale up as much as you want, so that you can automate some of the parts that you need in order to create a rocket silo and the rocket parts. which you need to obviously get the science packs off of the planet, back to your home planet, and start doing the research to unlock some of the rest of the technology that's on Vulcanus. In order to do that, you'll probably want to set up a bus similar to what I've got here, where you've got the steel, the copper cables, the iron, and then you can set up automation for pipes and set up a bus and set up all of these parts that you need in order to launch your rockets into space. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully that has been insightful for you and help you out when you get to Volcanus. If it has, please leave me a like and a subscribe and comment, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks. If you enjoyed that video on automation, you might appreciate some videos of automation in the professional sense as well. I do some courses on Udemy on DevOps, so if you're interested, then please check them out. I'll leave them in the description below. Thanks.